right, today, ethical nihilism. So, nihilism generally is the ism of nothingness, no purpose, no meaning. Sometimes people, when they say nihilistic, mean no inherent value or meaning, but technically, nihilism would be no value or no meaning whatsoever. Not just inherent, but anything that we would place on it either. How that pertains then to ethics, ethical nihilism is sort of an extension of what Plato says about the common view, and what most people think about ethics. I mean, if laws are arbitrary, and public opinion obviously is ever-changing and fairly arbitrary, then perhaps it's the case ethics itself is arbitrary also. And if it's merely arbitrary, then why bother following it? Right? Why bother being ethical is the question. And so notice how this pertains and connects to the Ring of Gyges stuff. Well, if we all had the freedom to be, none of us would be, says Plato. Well, Plato says that, right, we all think none of us would be. And so why not just live our lives like that? Why not live our lives as if we're invisible, even though we aren't? And nihilism says, right on. Because it's only a certain group of folks, losers quite frankly, who bother following the rules and should follow the rules because they can't really win. They can't really be successful. Losers instead, they're chasing the goal of happiness because they know they can't actually be successful. So they settle, says ethical nihilism, right? But winners, people who could be successful, should be chasing success, not happiness. The person I'm primarily going to be referencing is Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche himself is not a nihilist, either in the larger philosophical sense or even an ethical nihilist. However, he does explicitly want to invert and reverse traditional Judeo-Christian values and ethics. In so doing, then, that's going to look very much like no ethics whatsoever. In part, because as Nietzsche sees it, and other ethical nihilists will agree, right, there's no such thing as God. It's all made up. That's pretend, that's arbitrary. And if we go back historically then to a time prior to belief in some type of Judeo-Christian God, this is Nietzsche's claim in his book, The Genealogy of Morals, which he was writing at the same time as Beyond Good and Evil, his two texts on morality and ethics. If we go back, we can see that some people try things and are successful. Other people try things and are unsuccessful. The people who are unsuccessful then get jealous of the people who are successful. And things that are successful are deemed good. Things that are unsuccessful are deemed bad. Well, there are way more people who are unsuccessful than there are who are successful. And so these unsuccessful folks, again, are jealous of the people who are successful. And so Nietzsche says they create the concept of God. He wants to point to the Jewish nation itself, a nation which was not great at conquering other places, and in fact got conquered quite a bit by everyone else. For them, though, they had this concept of Yahweh, and Yahweh will ultimately reward all of those things which here and now make you unsuccessful, and will punish all of those things which here and now make you successful. For example, things that make you successful: independence, arrogance, hubris, right? A certain type of rising above everyone else. What Nietzsche will deem the Übermensch, overlord, Superman, what have you. The things that are not rewarded here, but that God happens to love, self-sacrifice, community, putting others before yourself, so on and so forth. The thinking of das Man, the they, them, most folks, right? And so things that are successful are now deemed evil, and things that were once unsuccessful are now deemed good. So now we have a good-evil dichotomy rather than a good-bad dichotomy, and it's flipped. In addition, these evil folks are probably also going to be unhappy because happiness or contentment leads you to not continue to push forward, right? If you think of an athlete who is content, they're not continuing to improve their game, right? They've done enough. They're happy, right? Or an artist who is content and happy with their artwork. They've done enough. They're not pushing forward. They're going to become average. They're going to become overtaken by other people who are continuing to push forward. In addition to this creation of a God who's always watching, notice how that runs counter to the Ring of Gyges, right? Ring of Gyges, you are invisible to everyone, but here this God, no, God is always seeing. And so most folks, again, still live in fear of getting caught, of doing the things that they would want to do because they're afraid God is watching and will punish them. So we have this fear. So God is created, and so is the concept of heaven. And statistically, at least in the United States, most people's conception of heaven is not tied to a particular religion, but instead is set up very much like The Good Place, if you're familiar with that television program, where as long as your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, then you make it into this paradise place. Which, notice, is not what Islam says, not what Judaism says, not what Christianity says, not what Hinduism says, not what Buddhism says. So this concept of heaven is created then, and the last, here and now, shall finish ultimately first. Those are the ones who are going to make it to heaven because of all of these things, doing all these things that God loves, which makes you not successful here. But at least you're happy and you're content. You're settling because you know you can't actually be successful. But if Nietzsche and others are right and there is no such thing, here and now is all there is, so the only way for you to be even close to immortal is to create something great enough that it outlives you. Beethoven has been dead a very, very long time, but we still listen to Beethoven's music. So in some way, he is continuing to live beyond the grave. He is somewhat immortal. His works, at least, are. We still make reference to him. Shakespeare continues to exist in our popular consciousness, even though he's been dead for hundreds of years, right? And these greats, right, are going to be separate, different than the rest of us. Because again, they're chasing some type of leaving behind of a legacy of greatness, whereas the rest of us are settling for happy. Nietzsche himself says, independence is for the very few. It is a privilege of the strong. Very few. And independence is going to be, if not a hard, fast requirement, pretty doggone close in order for this type of success. Because just think about how time-consuming your family is, how time-consuming your significant other is, how time-consuming your job is, right? All of those things get in the way of you actually following your passions, following your drives, being true to yourself, which could then lead to some type of greatness and success. Kobe Bryant, by his own admission before he died, basically ignored his family while pursuing greatness in basketball. Jordan does not have a great relationship with his family. Tom Brady and I are about 2 months apart. He has 7 Super Bowl rings, 0 successful marriages. I have 0 Super Bowl rings, 1 successful marriage. But obviously his legacy is much different than mine. He's much more successful than I am. If he dies later today, he's trending on all the socials. If I die later today, you'll have a different professor later this week. Maybe by next week. May take it a couple of days, right? Sure, my family will miss me for a little bit, but eventually I'll be forgotten, right? Tom Brady won't be forgotten anytime soon, right? The greats live their lives differently. They understand that rules are arbitrary. So they're not worrying about the law. They're not worrying about public opinion, because they also know that public opinion is trying to bring them down. Public opinion is trying to make them average when they're not. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone who breaks rules is going to win. Losers could break rules and still lose. But there are certain folks who are, who could be successful and instead settle for average. That's the real tragedy as far as Nietzsche is concerned, right? A couple of contemporary examples. I'm going to quote a poem written by a 21st century poet, and you may or may not be familiar with this particular poet. I'm just going to quote the first stanza here. I'm living in the 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen do it. Screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music. If you're not familiar, that's from the musical artist Kanye West, who now is Ye, I guess. Whatever. The song is entitled Power. Think back to the Ring of Gyges. What does the invisibility give you? Power. Freedom. Right? Greats have power. They see things and experiencing things differently. This is a power, right? The power to be doing something mean to the 21st century better than anyone else has ever done it. He is considering himself to be the greatest. Now, we can have a debate about who's greater between Kanye and Kendrick and so on and so forth. I'm not here for that discussion. Either Kanye is right. He is, if not the greatest, at least one of the greats, such that 50 to 100 years from now, people are still listening to Kanye West albums and songs. Or he's wrong. He's delusional, and he will be forgotten 15, 20 years from now, and no one will care about 808s and Heartbreaks, or My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, or The College Dropout. This sounds very arrogant. Again, that's necessary for this greatness. The recognition that you are or could be great, and that other folks, rules, all of these things do nothing but hold you back. Ethics hold you back. So don't bother with it. Right? Hate comes because you're not average. Hate is directed only at greats. The 8th player on an NBA bench doesn't get hate, because by NBA standards, he's probably pretty average. It's the greats that receive hate. LeBron, Kanye, Kendrick, whomever. Insert great name here, and they receive a lot of criticism and a lot of hate. They hate us because they ain't us, right? They're jealous. Most people with that kind of power would do the exact same thing. I talked about this last time with the Ring of Gyges. And when talking about power, this is from a New York Times bestseller from a few years ago, The 48 Laws of Power. Notice, this is a New York Times bestseller, which means a lot of people purchased this book. But wait, Nietzsche said independence is for the very few, a privilege of the strong. Yeah, I know, mathematically this doesn't work out. Most folks who are purchasing or picking up the 48 Laws of Power can't actually be successful. They're not willing to do what it takes to be successful. And even if they were willing to do those things, they can't actually be successful. Success is for the very few. And I do want to pause here and have you question yourself just for a moment. If you can have only one of these two things, you can have success, but you will be unhappy and deemed by others to be evil, probably. I'll get to that Nietzsche quote in a second. Or you can be happy but unsuccessful. Which one would you really choose? And I know you're like, well, I want to have both. Good luck. If you can only have one or the other, I'm not allowing you to have both. Which one is your actual goal? And that'll be very telling. If your goal is happiness, congratulations, join the club, you're a loser like me. If you're choosing success instead, congratulations, you might be a winner. You could be an Ubermensch. Nietzsche says, there is no doubt that the evil and unhappy are favored when it comes to the discovery of certain parts of truth, and the probability of their success here is greater because they're not holding themselves back based upon these arbitrary things like morality and law and public opinion. And these certain parts of truth could be insightful. And the rest of us are unwilling to go there. We don't want to talk about the dark, twisted fantasies. Kanye does. Kanye does, and he talks about power. So from the 48 Laws of Power, I'm not going to read all of the chapter titles, but I will point out a few of them which connect to what I've been talking about. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. So notice already here, the way this is being set up, life is a competition, right? There's you versus everyone else. Everyone can't be successful. If you are successful, it's at the expense of everyone else, and if they're successful, it's at your expense. These are enemies. Enemies, not fellow humans. Enemies. You should, according to this book, conceal your true intentions. And as I'm going through these laws of power, I want you to think, wait, does this sound ethical? Or does this sound like the antithesis of ethics? Court attention at all cost. Get others to do the work for you and take the credit. That's smart. May not be ethical, but that's smart. If they're doing good work, of course you should steal that in order to lead to your own success. Why would you not? Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky, right? Associate with those people whom you want to be like. Associate with other successful people who, remember, are also your enemies. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. So now we have the world of you and your enemies. And now there's a third group, your victims. Those whom you can take advantage of to lead to your own success. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. So even those friend things he talked about earlier on, never put too much trust in them. Well, of course not, because you're working as a spy anyway. Love this one. Crush your enemy totally. Right? Don't allow them to have a comeback. Right? It always strikes me as strange when the semi-professional football team that is the Ohio State University plays someone that they are far superior to. and they take their starters out of the game, that's not crushing your enemy totally. You leave your starters in, you run up the score, you crush them totally, and therefore also send a message to everybody else. Sports is more than just winning. It's winning and, if possible, humiliating your opponent, so that your next opponent is afraid too. Fear is a powerful thing. Very powerful. Right? Think about whichever school you attend, Darby or Davidson or Bradley. The other two are probably your rivals. Wouldn't you want to crush them totally? If possible, at some sport, football, baseball, basketball, volleyball, whatever the sport is, you want to defeat them totally. Crush them. Humiliate them. Make them understand and realize they were foolish to step on the court with you because you are that much their superior. That's how you succeed. That's winning. Keep others in suspended terror, another law. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. There again, so that everyone else lives in fear. Much of this is also echoing what Niccolo Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, which I'm not going to get into the discussion as to whether that's descriptive or prescriptive at this point, but if you read that short text, it's telling you many, many similar things. This is how you become a successful ruler of people. Maybe not ethical, but successful, memorable. Do not commit to anyone. Law number 20. Nietzsche again. Independence is for the very few. Play on people's need to believe, to create a cult-like following. It's good stuff. Again, not anything anyone would consider to be ethical. But this is about power, not about being ethical. This is about being successful. This is about leaving your mark, leaving a legacy. This is not about following rules and chasing happy. That's a different game. That is a completely different game. Just to point out how pervasive ethical nihilistic notions are in popular culture, and I may ruin your childhood with this next reference. But I'm going to recite the lyrics of yet another song, one of which is probably more popular than Power by Kanye. This song came out in 2013. Many of you may have sung this song and not realize the depths of the song. And so I will caution you, you need to go with me through the lyrics instead of in your mind jumping ahead and singing the rest of the song. I'm not going to sing, I'm going to recite the lyrics. This song's about 3 octaves out of my range. I'm a pretty low bass and sometimes hop up to baritone. That's not where this is sung. And I do want you to think, if you're familiar with the song, think about what the character who's singing it is doing as she's singing the song and what's happening within the context of this film. The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. Isolation, same as independence, right? She's been isolated for quite some time, the majority of her life physically, because she's being locked away. Why has she been locked away? Because she has power. This is Elsa. She has a particular power, and her parents are locking her away, yes, to teach her how to control it. Really, to protect Anna, because that's how the whole thing started. Remember, she accidentally hurts Anna. Oh, now we got to run to the trolls to save Anna. Anna. Clearly the parents' favorite. Then, yeah, we've locked you away. We're teaching you how to use your power. Now we're going to go on some trip. Oops, and we end up dead. So now you're even further isolated. And you're also psychologically isolated because of this power that you have that other people don't. Which then leads to emotional distance and isolation. Yeah, Elsa's for sure the Queen of Isolation, no doubt there. Kingdom of Isolation, looks like I'm the queen. You sure are. The wind is howling like the swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in. What could she not keep in? Her power. She's singing this song after it's been revealed that she has it. And what's happening to the town of Arendelle? They are losing their ever-loving minds. Why? Because, let's go back to Plato, because they know what they would do if they had this kind of power, and so they're afraid that she will do those things because she has this power. Power is to be feared if you don't have it. I couldn't keep it in, says Elsa. Heaven knows I tried. Right? This God thing would want her to conceal her power, to be part of a community, to not stand out, to not be independent, or rather to be dependent. Heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in. Don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Good and not evil. Self-sacrificing. Then again, just to remind us what she's doing during this, she is actively creating. She is an artist. She is letting her power out. Let's see what I can do. We'll get to that line here in just a minute. Let's see what I can do with this power. Uninhibited. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal. Don't feel. Don't let them know. Right, another part of what Nietzsche's talking about here is this thing that leads to success, is this drive within you that you can't turn off. Her parents wanted her to conceal that. Conceal this power. Conceal this power. Right? Don't rub it into your opponents when you're that much better than they are. Give them a chance. Right? Sometimes maybe even let them win if they're a little kid or something. What? Limit my power? Just to make someone else feel better about themselves? That's the good thing to do? That's the thing that heaven wants me to do? Elsa's like, no, not anymore. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Now they know. And just like Mom and Dad said, they're freaking out. And so she's walking away from it. Let it go, can't hold it back anymore, right? She tried, she can't. It's who she is. It's not just a thing that she does, it's who she is. Let it go, can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. It becomes background noise, like Kanye's superhero theme. It's in the background. I'm not worrying about it. Of course they're jealous. Of course they're going to say this, that, and the third. I don't care what they're going to say. Because I'm beyond that. Right? Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. Funny how some distance makes everything seem small. Now obviously she's talking about the distance because she's walking away from Arendelle. So now Arendelle physically looks much smaller as she gains distance away from it. But also, like I was talking about with Beethoven and Kanye, right? Distance historically, right? Shakespeare wasn't the only playwright of his time. There were other people doing plays, and I'm sure those other plays were adequate, enjoyable for the time, but they were also very average. Shakespeare's stuff lives on because Shakespeare's stuff was better. Shakespeare's stuff is great. Shakespeare's stuff speaks to universal human condition in a way those other ones must not have, or they would have survived too. Every summer there's some hot pop song of the summer that people forget by fall because it's not memorable. It's of the moment. It's temporal. It's not great. It's not lasting. Every summer at the bookstore, when we had bookstores, they would have a section for summer beach read. It's fine. These books are perfectly adequate. to read while sitting on the beach and then immediately forget about because they're not memorable, because they're not great. This is not literature. Literature is not on the summer beach read shelf. Borges and Gabriel Garcia Marquez are not on the summer beach read. I don't know what is, quite honestly. I don't go to the beach. Even if I did, I wouldn't read on the beach. I don't know what's there. And it doesn't matter, because by the next summer, those aren't the hot ones anyway. They're fleeting. They're not important. Distance makes average seem much smaller. But greatness grows. The fear that once controlled me can't get to me at all. Right? She was living in fear, and now she's not. She tried concealing and not feeling. Well, now they know. And are they freaking out? Yep, all well. Elsa's thinking there's nothing I can do about them freaking out. That's a them problem, not a me problem. Of course they're going to get freaked out. This is, again, Nietzsche. The highest and strongest drives, when they break out passionately and drive the individual above the average, wreck the self-confidence of the community, its faith in itself, and it is as if its spine has been snapped. Arundel's self-confidence has been wrecked. They are shook. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. And this next line proves that Tropi's not completely off his rocker by equating this song with ethical nihilism. No right, no wrong, no rules for me, I'm free. I rest my case. No rules, no ethics, no laws, those things don't apply to me. I'm free, I'm beyond those things, and because I'm beyond those things, these conceptions of right and wrong no longer fit. Good and evil, I'm beyond those. Successful, unsuccessful, maybe we can have a conversation. But ethical, unethical, past that. Which again is why I say it may not exactly be the same thing as the elimination of ethics, but the practical consequences are the same thing, right? You're beyond ethical norms. Much like greats, right? Greats in the arts, frequently seen by the rest of us as weirdos, doing weird things. They're just being them, man. Lady Gaga wears a dress made out of meat, okay. It's weird for me because I don't view the world the way she does. I'm not a performance artist. She is. Prince was weird, right? Prince was blurring these lines all the time, perpetuating the myth that he was biracial. He wasn't, but it's a matter of blurring lines and not the Robin Thicke song or Alan Thicke or whichever. Alan Thicke was the actor dad. Robin Thicke is the musician son. Whatever, you know who I'm talking about. The date rape song. Right, so back to Elsa. No right, no wrong, no rules for me, I'm free. Because of this power, she has a ring of Gyges. And that's even before she becomes immortal in the second movie. Let it go, I'm one with the wind and sky. Let it go, you'll never see me cry. Because again, crying is a sign of weakness because it means that the rest of society, these losers, are getting to you. Here I stand, here I stay, let the storm rage on. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around. Right? The artist and the artwork are one and the same thing. There's no separating them. Right? If you're an athlete, though it's you that's being expressed in the way that you play your particular sport. If you are a musician, it's you, it's your soul that's being expressed through the music. Visual arts, it's you, it's your soul that's being expressed. We express ourselves, it's our soul. Her soul is in these frozen fractals. Her soul is in this ice castle. Her soul is in these snow G's and in Marshmallow, the huge snow monster. It's why they view her like a mother. She created them out of herself. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around. One thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back. The past is in the past. I don't know if this is the case in Hilliard or not. Okay? I know in Columbus this is the case. Let's say it's a Friday night in the fall and it's high school football time. And, right, so students are there, woo, yay! And there are older people there, my age, maybe even slightly older. We don't have kids playing, we're just hanging out. Because we have no place better to be on a Friday night. Because we're losers. Instead, we're at the old high school to relive the glory days. And Bruce Springsteen has a song about this. Right? Oh, well, back when I was playing, oh, I could have been. No, you couldn't. I know you and everyone else thinks that if not for that bad coach or that injury, I could have. No, you couldn't, man. You couldn't. Some of the stats I've seen says 75 to 80% of male high school athletes think they could have gone pro if not for a coach who didn't like them or that injury they sustained. Again, that math doesn't math. Most folks don't. Most folks just, quite frankly, aren't good enough. Losers are always looking at the past and thinking about what might have been. Winners don't have time for that. The past is in the past. It's gone. It's done. We're moving forward. All right, so I had 99 ways not to make a light bulb. I'm still thinking about the next time when I will. Winners are thinking about when they succeed, not if they fail. Losers, if they're self-aware, follow the rules because they know that they would lose otherwise. Think again about sports, right? It's about pushing that line of the rules right up against it. Maybe crossing over occasionally, pushing right up against it. Again, Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowl rings. There were a few times he broke the rules. He was suspended for it. So what? He won. That's what winners do. Winners win. And losers complain. Losers try to pass more rules. Losers get jealous and whine because the winners are better than they are. That's probably good for this one. Probably more for later this week.